Hi! So today we're going to do a different video. I'm going to talk about the first book in a series that I love. And I really want to do the rest of the series, so if I can do this well, then I'll do the rest of the series. Okay, so the book I'm doing is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So what's going to happen, I'm going to give you a quick non-spoiler summary of the book, and then I'm just going to give you a whole play-by-play of the book. Okay, so if you don't want spoilers, after I give you the summary, you should head out the door. So this 19-year-old huntress, Feyre, is hunting, and she kills a wolf, and a beast comes barging through her door, of her family's cottage, and basically tells her that she broke the law, and she needs to come live with him, or he's gonna kill her. So she goes with him. And Feyre lives in a world that is divided in two. Half of it belongs to the humans, the other half is to the Fae, or the fairies. Yeah, that's the end of the non-spoiler part. That's it. So, this is the spoiler section. Spoiler warning. So, this is where I'm just going to give you a whole, from the beginning to the end of the book, detailed description, and then I will read you the back of the next book. And I will probably, I might actually end up posting that today too, but it just really depends on my mood. Okay, so when we first start off, so we have Feyre, and she is hunting, and her family is very poor. She lives with her dad and her two sisters. Her mother died before. And she's the youngest, and she takes care of her entire family. So she's hunting, and she sees a deer, but then she notices there's a wolf stalking the deer, and she realizes the wolf is, really big and kind of, his eyes, she said, are very human, so she kills it with an ash arrow, which is the only thing that can kill fairies, because she thinks it could possibly be a fairy, so she doesn't want to take the chance. So she skins the wolf, brings the deer back to her cottage, and that's cool. And then, a little while later, this giant beast comes barging through her door, and she's like, or this beast, he's like, yo, homies. So this beast, he tells her that she broke the law, like I said before, and she needs to either come live with him or he's going to kill her. So obviously she decides to go live with him. She gets back to where he lives. After she gets back to where he lives, she finds out that he's not a beast. He is Tamlin, a high fae. And not only a high fae, he is the High Lord of the Spring Court, which basically means he's like the king. So the Spring Court territory is closest to the human area. So she's there, and he basically tells her, nobody's gonna hurt you, you just get to live in my house until you die. So she's like, cool, but she doesn't really believe him. So she's like, really on edge, cool, and then she meets Lucien. Lucien at first doesn't like her because obviously she killed the wolf, which was a fairy, and I don't know, they were friends. So she doesn't like her at first, and she sort of has a talk with them, and then so being in the Spring Court for a really long time, she starts to get to know Tamlin better, and he's not this evil guy that she thought he was, and she gets more comfortable with him and Lucien, and she sort of starts to learn things. She learns that Tamlin's court is plagued by a blight. He calls it the blight. And it basically means that they have a mask on and they can't take the mask off. So that's always fun. So she's never been able to actually see what Tamlin looks like. But she's becoming friends with him, and they fall in love eventually. So now she's in love with the High Lord of the Spring Court, and she's becoming really close friends with Lucien. And I know I'm not going to say a lot of these names right, especially Rysand. You just have to stick with me. If you say Rysand, that's a personal problem. Personally, I think Rysand sounds better than Rysand. Sorry. Just how my brain works. Okay, so after she starts to fall in love with Tamlin, there's this party that they tell her about. And basically, Tamlin's going to be overcome by magic, and he basically is going to choose a girl. And Feyre is a human, and Lucien and Tamlin don't want her to get hurt, so they tell her, during this party, you have to stay in your room, you can't come out, you can't leave your room, you have to stay in your room. So she's like, cool, that's not gonna be hard. So the night of the party, she's in her room, and she decides, because she's stupid, that she would really, really, really want to go see the party. She doesn't think anything's going to happen. She just thinks she's going to go see a party. She's going to be casual, cool, just go to a party, right? So she walks out of this house, and she's, like, walking around the party for a little bit, and then she's sort of, like, on the outskirts of the party when these three guys grab her. So now these three guys are grabbing her, or, like, hauling her away from the party, and she can't get out of their grasp because obviously they're fae, so they're stronger than her. When a beautiful man comes and saves her. So this guy, when he sees her, he scares off the three men and basically is asking her, like, what is a human doing out here? And she tells him that she's friends with some fairies who brought her here. And then he tells her that she needs to go back home. So she does that. She goes back to Tamlin's manor, and then a little bit later, she's like, you know what? I think I'm really hungry. How stupid is she, right? So she walks out of her room, and she's like, okay, I'm just going to go get a quick snack. So she's walking down. Sorry, I'm really sick, so the sniffling, sorry. So she's, like, walking out of the house, and Tamlin finds her, pins her against the wall, and then, you know, she gets saved, and it's fine. Cool. So now it's like a few days later. They're all just like, so she's having breakfast with Tamlin and Lucien when, guess what? The same beautiful man that saved her on the night of the party walks in. And Tamlin and Lucien glamour her, which basically means they, like, hide her with magic. And this beautiful man walks in, and she realizes, ooh, bad guy. Tamlin doesn't like him. Bad guy. So realizes he's a bad guy, and she kind of sits there, and then she realizes the guy can see her. She finds out his name is Rysand. Rysand is the High Lord of the Night Court. He's super terrifying. Everyone is afraid of him. Cool. So Rysand breaks the glamour. He can see her now, and he basically uses his powers to hold her mind. And he's, like, trying to scare Tamlin, everything. He makes Tamlin kiss his boots. That's fun. And then he basically asks Feyre for her name. But she's not going to give him her name because she is afraid that if he knows her name, he'll attack her family. So she gives him the name of her neighbor. Sucks. The name of her neighbor, Claire. So that's cool. And then after Rysand leaves, Tamlin basically tells Feyre, it's not safe for you here anymore. You need to go home. I don't know. Okay. Thing is, I haven't read the book in a really long time, and I kind of didn't feel like rereading it, so I just read a summary about it. So I don't know if it's Alice, her maid, or Tamlin who tells Feyre about this, but she finds out that the Blight is not only Amarantha, who is this, like, evil queen, and she's basically trying to take over all of Prythian, and she cursed Tamlin and his court. And basically that Feyre needs to leave, or she's probably going to get murdered. So he sends Feyre home back to her family, and she's there with her sisters, and she finds out that, well, Tamlin erased their memories about her being taken, and then he gave them a bunch of money and gave them a house. So they've been pretty well, and Feyre gets there, and they think that she's been taking care of a sick aunt, except her sister Nesta. So she has two sisters, Nesta and Elaine. So Nesta remembers everything. And she, like, is asking Feyre questions, and then eventually Feyre decides that she needs to go back to Prythian, which is where the fairies live, to save Tamlin. So she does that, and when she gets back to Tamlin's house, she finds it completely destroyed, and she asks her old maid Alice, like, what happened, and the maid Alice tells her that Amarantha took Tamlin's court. So Feyre gets ready, and she starts going towards Amarantha's court, which is under the mountain. So she's going, and when she gets there, she sneaks in, and she gets caught by this thing called the Ator. That's fun. And then it drags her into the throne room, where Amarantha's sitting on the throne, and Tamlin is sitting next to her, all stone-faced. He's like, And when she's looking around, she sees her neighbor Claire, her body on the wall, and she realizes, ooh, I did that. I sold her out. That was me. Sorry, my bad. Cool. She feels really bad about that. And then Amarantha basically Feyre says, I love Tamlin, like, let him go. And then Amarantha decides that she doesn't believe that Feyre loves Tamlin. If she really loved him, then she would go through 3 trials to save him and his court. Or she would solve a riddle that would free them all immediately. So Feyre can't solve the riddle, so she decides that she's going to do the 3 trials. So she gets taken to a prison cell because she's only going to do 1 trial a month. Cool. She's in this prison cell. She's eating, like, stale bread. Gross. And when the first trial comes around, she gets kind of thrown out into this, like, trench, and basically she has to survive. It's basically all she has to do is survive. So she's being chased through a bunch of trenches by this giant thing called the Midgard worm. I think. I don't know what it's called. And it chases her through the trenches, and she finally realizes it's blind, it can smell me. So she rubs the dirt all over herself so she doesn't smell it, can't smell her anymore. And she realizes that she has to kill it. So she's trying to think of a way to kill it when she, like, falls into this, like, den, and it's full of bones, and one of them gets in her arm. So she decides that she's going to build a trap for it. So she does that. She starts building a trap with the bones, and it comes, and it gets killed by the trap. Cool. And then she flips off, she almost did it. She flips off Rysand and throws a bone at Amarantha. Cool. So when she's back in her cell after the first trial, she realizes that she thinks her arm is infected where the bone is, like, stuck through it. Cool. And when she is getting really sick and she's been puking, Rysand comes and he walks in and tells her that he will treat her. He will fix her infection if she agrees to spend 1 week every month with him in his court. So obviously she has no other options, so she agrees. And this tattoo comes on her arm, and it has, like, an eyeball right here. That's all fine. Second trial comes around. This one, she has to answer a question. So there's writing on the wall and levers. And the only thing is, if she doesn't answer it soon enough, Lucien will die. So she's panicking because she can't read. She can't read. Her not being able to read almost killed Lucien. Like, you would've... Whatever. But she is, like, thinking she's just gonna pick a random one. And she reaches for a lever, but her hand burns right where the tattoo is. I guess it's on her left hand. So she reaches, and her hand burns, and she's like, ah. And then she reaches for the different one, and it burns. Ah. And then she finally realizes that it's Rysand. Rysand is telling her the right answer. So she pulls the right answer, the one that doesn't burn, and wins. And then Rysand basically tells her what to do to make Amarantha mad, and basically she just holds her head high, turns around, and walks away. Now it's time for trial 3. So this time she's taken into the throne room, and she's kind of like, she doesn't know what's happening. She's really confused. Cool. So Amarantha tells her, cool, sweetie, for your 3rd task, you're gonna have to kill some fairies. And so Feyre's like, ooh, don't know if I can do that. Spoiler alert, she kills 2 fairies. Amarantha's like, you thought, there's a 3rd fairy. So Feyre walks over to the 3rd fairy, and she pulls off the mask, and it's Tamlin. Tamlin, yay. And then she's like, that's not fair, and all the crowd's like, Amarantha, that's not fair, you know, like. Then Feyre starts thinking of, like, past conversations, and she realizes that Tamlin's heart might be made of stone because what everything said to him. So she stabs him, and his heart is made of stone, so it doesn't kill him. And then Amarantha goes crazy. She's like, that's not even funny, homie. You just, like, you don't love him. You're such a liar. I'm gonna murder you because I never promised you that they would be let go right away after you completed the trials. So then Feyre's like, oh. And Amarantha starts killing her. Well, Tamlin is, like, coughing up blood, and he's, like, trying to get this knife out of his chest. But Rysand comes and he attacks Amarantha. He just, like, tries to throw a knife at her. He tries to attack her any way possible. And she basically just throws him against a wall because she has control over his powers. And then, guess what? Right before Feyre dies, she solves the riddle. And then everyone is let free. And while she's dead, everyone kills Tamlin kills Amarantha. And while she's dead, she's sort of in this, like, black abyss. And she's, like, looking around. And she sees that there's, like, this, like, thread tying her to the living world. So she's, like, following the thread. And she thinks it's leading to her home. Like, it's going to take her home. So she's following this thread. And suddenly she's seeing through someone else's eyes. She's seeing through Rysand's eyes. And basically, all the High Lords are there, and if all the High Lords decide together, they can bring someone back to life. Okay, so they all agree to bring Feyre back to life. They do that, they bring her back to life, she turns into a fairy. Cool, got it, good. So now everyone's happy, they're all gonna go home, but it's like the middle of the night. So her and Tamlin go to bed. But while she's like in bed, she feels like someone tugging her, so she follows it, and it's Rysand. So Rysand, basically, he has wings, but Feyre was the only one that knew about it, because he said that she was the only one that he could trust to talk to. So he has wings, nobody else knows that but Feyre, and he basically tells her that he's going home. And then, right before he leaves, he kind of gets a little shock. He gets shocked and stumbles backwards and disappears. And Feyre's like, cool. And then just leaves. Like, I'd be a little more confused than that. Okay, so that is the end of the book. I'm not very good at summaries. That's the end of that book. I really, really liked it at the time. When I first read it, I loved it. Not so much anymore, and if you want to know why I don't like it anymore, you have to watch my summary for the next video, which will either be up today or whenever else I feel like it. But at first, I have to read the description for the second book. The second book is A Court of Mist and Fury, and I'll read the description. Feyre survived Amarantha's clutches to return to the Spring Court, but at a steep cost. Though she now has the powers of a High Fae, her heart remains human, and it cannot forget the terrible deeds she performed to save Tamlin's people. Nor has Feyre forgotten her bargain with Rysand, High Lord of the feared Night Court. As Feyre navigates its dark web of politics and passion and dazzling power, a greater evil looms, and she might be the key to stopping it. But only if she can harness her harrowing gifts, heal her fractured soul, and decide how she wishes to shape her future, and the future of a world torn apart. Doesn't that sound exciting? And then at the top, it's some dialogue between Feyre and Rysand. I mean, you don't know that yet, but it is between Feyre and Rysand. And it says, tell me what you see. A world divided in two. Crazy. That's the end of the video. Bye.